Hey YouTube, you're on here with the appliance God. I just got this Whirpool washing machine in. I am a used appliance dealer, distributor, service tech, whatever you want to call it. Long story short, we got this Whirpool in. I'm doing this video today to help anybody who might have signs, symptoms, and basically I'm going through my regular process of diagnosing the machine so I can put it out, clean it, and resell it. So basically I got everything hooked up, which is my drain hose, my hot and my cold line, and I'm going to start by pulling the knob out. Sorry about the video. Like I said, I'm new to YouTube, so just trying to help people out so you don't end up spending an arm and a leg, $175, $150, and things of that nature. So basically we just diagnosing the machine. So if I get any symptoms or signs, we'll basically go over those. So you're basically diagnosing it with me. We're diagnosing it together, except for my knowledge is a little bit greater. I do this as my everyday job. Excuse the backdrop, but hey, we're not worried about the backdrop. We worried about the appliance, getting the appliance up and running. So a few pointers and a few tips. First sign and symptom is I actually put the machine on extra small because I don't want to run it on a large capacity just because of the water, and you know I'm trying to be environmentally friendly here. But long story short, I put it on an extra small. So I know that this machine should have at least 6 to 8 inches of water on an extra small load. And I'm way past 6 to 8 inches. I can tell. Alright, so we stopped right there, and we probably had about maybe about 10 inches of water. So I know that eventually one day let me turn this off again. I know that one day that the load sensor is going to have to be replaced. So drop the lid on it. Now the machine is going into agitate mode. Normally what I do is I take my old rags, what I use to clean appliances with, and I drop them in there just to see if the agitator is agitating the correct way. And an easy way to figure out if it's washing the correct way. Now a lot of people say, well, how would you see if the agitator is working the correct way if the lid isn't open? Well, I can easily go behind there or bypass my lid switch. So I'll tell you what I'll do. Stop right here. Let's stop the machine and show you what I would do if I wanted to actually see the machine working with the lid open, because these have a safety feature on it, and this safety feature doesn't allow the machine to come on without the lid being closed. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here to the back of the machine, and I got 2 screws, one on my left side and one on my right side. And on some of these Whirlpools, it just all depends on which model it is, how you can open up the machine. But back here I have 2 screws, and I basically want to take my screwdriver or my DeWalt gun, put it in there and raise that screw up. So, and I want to do the same thing on the other side. And basically you want, there's a little tab in there. So you basically, when you sticking this in there, you want to make sure that this little white tab right here is actually pushed back. You don't have to push it back, but once you place the screwdriver into that screw right there, it's going to automatically, and you want to hold it straight up and down so that so that your screwdriver or your gun or whatever it is removing it. So I'm going to find my long bit, and this is one of the bits that I use for tricky situations like this. This is a Phillips screwdriver bit. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but so I just switched my bits out, and forgive the camera view. Like I said, new to YouTube, just trying to help people out. All right, so I come back to the back of the machine again. And say hypothetically, if we turned this machine on and it filled up with water and it did not cut on, the first thing that I would check is what I'm about to show you guys. I would remove these screws. I don't know if you see that, but that works a lot better because it's longer and it's able to fit in that little slot right there. And it'll come up. Don't apply pressure, just let kind of, if you're using it by hand, if you're using a hand screwdriver, then don't apply pressure, just rewind it. I mean, turn to the left, righty tighty, lefty loosey. And you don't want to lose these screws. Just want to push this in. So a hypothetical. A lot of customers call me. Forgive the camera view. A lot of customers call me, and what you're gonna see me try to do with one hand and two hands is a lot of customers. I'm trying to catch my screws, but a lot of customers call me and say, "Hey, my machine won't cut on," and it's not cutting on. It just fills up. So the first thing I look at when I go to a customer house is I look at their lid switch. Now right beneath here, this is your lid switch. Your lid switch is tied into the actual lid itself. So basically what happens is when you close the lid, there's a metal piece up underneath this top panel that actually hits a button. Not a button, it's a metal piece, another metal piece that's attached to basically a on and off switch. So when you raise the lid, now it cuts the machine off. When you lower the lid, it cuts it on. But if long story short, if customer called me and said that the machine just fills up, this would be the first piece of equipment or first part I would check. And this is your lid switch, and you have a ground, which is your green. In the middle you got 3 wires, and this is how you know it's your lid switch, because it's the same. But don't get it confused with your power. This is your power. Your lid switch will be attached to the base, or the top of the machine itself. This is your power switch, and you see how both of these wires look exactly, well, not the same, but one is black, one is white, one is green. Green is always ground. One is white, one is green, one is gray. But it can be confusing if you don't know what you're doing. Long story short, a simple way I can test this machine to see if it is my lid switch is I can take a jumper wire, right? So let me get a jumper wire. And I wouldn't recommend doing this with the machine on the on position. But long story short, you're not going to electrocute yourself. It's only 120 volts. So I would take this, and I'm trying to do this with the so I would take this right here, and this is my lid switch, and I basically unhooked it. It goes into the top part of the machine, and if you back up, all right, so you back up, it's actually mounted in the top part of the machine. This is your lid switch. It goes down into that little harness right there, and I basically pulled this up. Now this is if your machine just fills up and you want to know how to diagnose it yourself. The machine fills up and does not cut on. This is the first component that I check when I come to somebody's house. So I would pull this harness out of here, and it has to be in the base, and sometimes you'll see it'll be sitting on the side in a little white box, and the harness will be tied in that way, but it's always in the base. Don't get it confused with the power, because if you try to do this with the power one, where the black is going into the white, green, and black, you're definitely going to get electrocuted. Alright, so I would take this wire harness right here. I know green is my ground, so I do not want to jump my wire. And what I have inside of this little harness is I got metal inputs. Let's just call them metal inputs, whatever. I mean, let's not be too technical. I mean, remember, we trying to help. All right, so we got white and gray. White and gray are my powers. So what I want to do is I want to take my jumper wire, which is, this is just a piece of wire from anything. I pulled it off an old cord off an old machine, cut the ends off, maybe about 1/4 of an inch, copper showing, 1/4 of an inch copper showing. And I'm going to stand this up real quick to kind of show you what I'm doing. So I take those and I just twist them a little bit, because when I stick it down in there, I actually don't want the wires to, I want it to slide down in there the correct way. And I take this little guy right here and I stick one side of my wire into my gray. Alright. Now don't be worried, because it's not going to electrocute you, because you have to have two sources. Not two sources, but you don't create the corner. I mean, so forgive me if I'm not politically or technically correct. So I basically took my jumper wire and I installed it in the gray and the white. And I basically jumped it. I basically bypassed the lid switch, because this harness is no longer tied into the lid switch. This is symptoms if your machine fills up, and this is pretty much every machine besides like the newer models, say 2009 and above, like newer models. Even some of the newer models have this type of lid switch. Majority of them do. If you have a magnetic one, which means that it has a magnet in the lid switch, like this one right here. This is a magnet. Oops, sorry. Magnetic one right here, and it has a magnet in there, and that's what turns the machine on. But if you have one like this on a Whirpool, these are pretty common. Kenmore, Kenmores were made by Whirpool. Long story short, I just basically took my jumper wire. I'm just giving you a close-up. I did not put my jumper wire in my ground. I took my jumper wire and I put it in the gray input, transferred it around to the white input. So basically, I'm bypassing this switch back here. I'm basically jumping it. Well, this is just a simple way to diagnose. Now, if I pull this control knob out, and you want to be careful, because you don't want to like drop the lid on it and stuff like that. So basically what I do is I go to the back of the machine right here, and if I pull this wire out, hypothetically, you turn your washing machine on, your washing machine fills up, and it does not do anything else, anything. If I pull this, which is the normal way that I would start the machine, by pulling the tab out or pulling the out. If I pull this and this machine cuts on, then that lets me know that it's my lid switch that's causing the interruption. So the lid switch is bad, either from condensation getting on a copper terminals, or just from period point blank use of the lid switch. And I mean, you got to think, Most people have washing machines 6-7 years. Out of that 6-7 years, they probably use it at least 7 to 8 times a month. 7 8 times, right, 100 and something times. Long story short, if I pull this and the machine cuts on, then from that point on, you know that your lid switch is bad. All right, so I'm going to pull this and I'm going to see if the machine cuts on, and I know you guys can hear it. Hold on, I got to pull it out. So my machine cut on. So that lets me know, and I have to go back and not like anybody's dumb or retarded, but I just want to go over the symptoms again. Cut the machine off, I stick my hand back there and push the timer switch back in. If you're at home, you cut your machine on. Your machine fills up full of water. Once it fills full of water, or to whatever pre-selected setting you have it on as far as the load size, and it fills up full of water and the machine does not cut on, this is my first part, component, whatever you want to call it, that I would check, is my lid switch. Because lid switches are used a lot of the times, and they're a lot of the times the culprit in your machine not working. So just going back over this, I take my screws out my back. This is upside down, but I take my screws out my back. Some of the Whirlpools, some of the Kenmore models have a metal clip in there to where you have to go inside the lid and stick your hand up in there. And if my hand was up under here, it'll be a little metal thing that you would have to push back, and it takes a little bit of strength, but you would have to push it back. And then you would have to go to the opposite side and do the same thing, push it back. And if you push it back and hold the top of the control panel as you're pushing it back, but it's going to take a little bit of thumb strength, then you'll notice that it'll pop up. But on this case, well, in this case, we had a one with the screws in the back, the 2 Phillips screws in the back. So we unscrewed the screws, pulled it slightly forward, and I don't know if you can look at those teeth. Those teeth are going forward, so we pulled it slightly forward, wiggled it around a little bit, and lifted it up. Once we got the control panel up and visible, where we can actually see where the lid switch is, we notice the lid switch is right there. Your lid switch is predominantly going to be tied into something in the top, in this top panel, back here up under the control panel, not visible to the eye. So we actually have to remove the control panel or lift the control panel up so we can get to it. It's going to be tied into something like this. On your lid switch, you're going to have 3 wires, 1 2 3. Some of the colors vary, but one thing you don't want to do is you don't ever want to jump into your ground. You always want to go with the 2 opposite. It just all depends on where they have the ground placed. Sometimes they place the ground on this side, sometimes they place the ground on this side. But the ground, which is ground to the machine, the ground is always going to be green, or either green and yellow. Long story short, you want to take your jumper wire, you want to insert it into your gray and white. If we erase out the green and act like the green is not there and say we got 2 other wires, then we know those are the 2 wires that we want to jump. We want to jump those together. And an easier way to do that is to simply unplug the machine. Once you unplug the machine, you take this wire, the white wire, and you snip it, and you take the gray wire and you snip it, and you do it just like we did this, and you tie both of them together. Now make sure that it doesn't hit the metal or something like that. You don't never want to take your control panel and flip it back down. You take the white, the gray, you cut it, and this is if you want to be cheap and you don't want to buy another lid switch and you say screw this, you know. And lid switches aren't that expensive, but they are kind of hard to put in if you don't know what you're doing. This is an alternative way. I don't recommend this, but you can take your white, your gray, cut it, make the ends look like that, maybe 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch down. Take these 2 wires, tie them together, and once you tie them together, take your machine, plug it back in. Once you plug it back in, Do whatever you normally would do. If you have a start button or a pull out knob like this one right here, where you have to pull the knob out, cut it on. And if your machine cuts on, then it was your lid switch that was causing the problem of your machine not cutting on. Those are hypotheticals. Those are the signs if the machine won't cut on after it fills up full of water. Okay, so I'm gonna stick this back in here because this is over. I'm gonna remove my jumper wire because I know that my lid switch is not the problem right now. And actually, we don't know what the problem is because we're diagnosing this together, and I'm just trying to help people out. So please forgive my backdrop, forgive the lighting, forgive the video and moving of the camera, but I'm just trying to help. So I'm going to cut my machine on, and I can hear it agitating. Oh, how we got to this part. Sorry about that. We all can be forgetful sometimes. So how we got to this part was we wanted to actually see the agitator agitate without it actually with the lid open. So I basically take my jumper wire, I hook it into my braid. And don't be scared if it touches you. It's not going to electrocute you. Alright. So basically I just took my jumper wire and I jumped it. And now I lift my lid because I'm bypassing the lid switch. I go to the back of my machine. Oops. Pull a knob out. Now I'm able to look at my agitator and my agitator actually turns. By looking at it, it looks kind of loose. This agitator should be a lot more tighter and stiffer, you know. So if I can hold the agitator like this, and I don't recommend that, that means your agitator needs new dogs, because what's happening is it's not agitating it. I mean, if I can hold the agitator, there's no way I should be able to hold the agitator like this. Yeah, there's no way I should be able to hold the agitator. The agitator, as your agitator is going around, it should be going around just like that in a half circle every time your what's name goes around. Alright, so you need dogs for this. People call them dogs, people call them agitators. Basically, you want to stop your machine. And keep in mind, you have to have the dogs or the agitators already. I'm going to show you guys what they look like. Give me a second. I am about to go get some. So these are your dogs. See, they call them dog agites. Agites, however you pronounce that. Dog agitators, whatever you want to call them. So this is what they look like. They look like this. Simply like that. Little teeth on there. I don't know if I can get a close-up like that. So, symptoms. Wash machine is not washing your clothes, and you're definitely going to need a socket set, extension, and a wrench. So we cut our machine off, we set our dogs to the side. We want to come in here in the center of the agitator. I'm going to come in the center of the agitator, and we basically remove the detergent dispenser or whatever you want to call it, dispenser, softener, fabric softener, and it basically sits on the top like this. So it pops in there like that. So we basically just wiggled that around and removed that. I'm gonna come down in here, and as you can see, there's a little plastic piece. I don't know what you want to call it, but it does have a rubber piece around it, which is supposed to isolate water from getting down in there. We want to pop this out and just basically stick our hands, as you can see, in there like that. Okay, and you see it has the rubber piece on the side. Then we're going to have to take our extension, so it'll look like this, and I believe it's a 5/16 or a 5/8. I'm not for sure, but right now that's what I was just doing, was putting my extension on there, because we need a extension to be able to fit down in there. If we try to use this, I mean, not gonna work. So we have to have an extension to get on there. I mean, to get down in there. All right, forgive the camera movement, but I'm holding this with my hand. And basically, we want to try, that looks like about, let's try 13 millimeter. I'm gonna use millimeters. I don't see what all the big height is. Alright. Alright, let's go a little bit smaller. A little bit smaller. And we're gonna try 12 millimeter. You can use metric standard as long as it fit on there. It's my rule of thumb. As long as it fits on there and you got a nice turn. I mean, a nice tight lock on there. As long as it fits on there is mine. It's my rule of thumb, because some people too technical, all that technical stuff. All right, so basically, see if we can get this. Excuse me, wasn't a 5/8, wasn't a 5/16, but I haven't replaced these in a while, so 7/16. 7/16. You guys can see that. 7/16. That's what we use. An extension. 7/16. Pretty tight, nice tight. Is not no whole bunch of play. There's no play. You don't want a lot of play because you don't want to strip the screw out. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. And I'm just basically turning the screw. Now you can do this while there's water in there. It really doesn't make a difference. And you're going to feel it get looser as you keep turning. Keep turning. Now I have a tool that I use, and I'm basically just pop that off in there, and now I'm turning it by my hand. Alright, and it feels like it's pretty loose, so it's pretty much done. Alright, now set those to the side right there, and I'll pull up on my whole agitator, and it's not going to hurt anything, so don't let nobody tell you, oh, it's going to hurt something, then why is they skippy this? Alright, so now that we have this out of here, alright, what I'm going to do is you actually have to pull the top. Oh, that worked. So you actually have to pull it. I mean, is this little white piece right here goes on here like that. And you actually have to pull it like that to get it out. So, set you right here. And keep in mind, I don't have a camera fan, so forgive me, but I'm gonna try. And basically, what I did was I took this, pulled it off of the bottom of the agitator, and turned it over once I pulled it out. Alright? So, what I can do now is, I tell you what, let's remove all this stuff. Give us a better playing field. Still got my dogs, my agitators, and the agitator dogs, whatever you want to call them in there, black. Sometimes they come white, sometimes they come black. I want to set this to the side, set that to the side. And now, since I've popped it out of this general thing, and you want to make sure when you put them back in there that you put them back in there on this side with the teeth, because you don't want to put them on this side because it's not going to work too well. You want to put them on this side with the teeth, because what these little things right here do is they grip on to the teeth that's in there. I don't know if you can, yeah, you can see that. Those little teeth, these little white things right here, and these are pretty ground out, and that's why we don't have a good what's the name. So basically we want to pop this yellow thing off. If I can do it with one here, let me see the camera. Take this and pop this off. We want to take these out because these are the old, and we want to set them in there exactly how they were set, and they were going in a counterclockwise direction. I don't know if you can see these, but if you look at these, there's no teeth on it, and I'll take a new one and I'll compare it. So I want to open up my new ones. We know these are the new ones because they're black, and the old ones are white. So we just want to look at the teeth. So if you look at the teeth on there, let's see. It's kind of hard to see, sorry. But basically, you look at the teeth. And these old ones are it's kind of hard to do. It's kind of hard to do, but if you notice, the black teeth are very much not grounded out and not smooth, but the white ones are pretty gone. So, alright. So now we got that figured out, we move the old white ones out of the way. We take the black ones, we turn it like this, and they have to go in on this side. As you can see, they won't go in on this side. And if you have a different washing machine, it'll be pretty much similar. So we want to place them counterclockwise, and we just want to slide them in there like that. Boop. See that? Alright. I want to take the rest out, and I think four come in a pack. And no, they don't sell them 5 in a pack, 6 in a pack. It's only 4 comes in a pack. So we want to take the next one, place it like that. Boop. Take the next one, turn it, place it like that. Boop. Take the next one, turn it, place it like that. Boop. So now that we have our dogs in place, look pretty cool. We want to take this yellow piece, and if you have a Kenmore or a different type Whirpool, different model, there will be a piece that goes on the bottom like this, and basically you want to line it up with the grooves and the teeth on here. You want to just slide it back in place. That's it for that. Then when it comes to putting this back in, my process is I always put the screw. Alright, so we can turn this upside down, just as long as the yellow piece, we hold the yellow piece in place, because it actually keeps the dogs locked in place. So if I were to actually let this go, the dogs will fall out. So I just hold on to the yellow piece like right here, wherever, and I actually pop my screw in there. Why? Because it's going to be hard to get it in there once we get this established. Alright, so remember we putting the dogs in here, teeth down. So a little trick I do is I take my extension and my 7/16 socket, and I hold it upside down like this, just like that, on top of the machine, just to give you an even surface if you don't have a steady hand. And I take the teeth side and I turn it upside down and put it right over there. Alright, now that went in there like it was supposed to. You can take your hand and stick it in the bottom and hold on to the screw. You just want to keep it in there flush so till it turns upside down. Now that was kind of crooked. So now that we have it in there back the correct way, the screw is in there. Like I said, an easy trick. Put your agitator holder. Hold on to the yellow piece. Put the screw into the cone shape first. Turn it upside down. Set it on there. Make sure teeth side is the side that it goes in. And turn this piece upside down over it. And if you got a long enough extension, it's definitely going to slide over it real easy. And you can hold the base of this while you're turning this component, part of the hat, top part of the agitator over or upside down, whatever you want to call it. And it's just a little easier to do it like that. I mean, and basically what we want to do is we want to take this right here and we want to put it back on here. But the tricky part is, notice that this has teeth on it. So we want to take that and we want to kind of fill it out first before setting it on there all the way. We want to fill it out because you don't want this inside agitator kind of doing what it wants to do, because it will. Alright, so this another thing I do is alright, now this can be tricky. Alright, so problem. You're gonna run into this problem when you're trying to do this. Alright, so now my agitators, my dogs will fall out because I'm trying to hold the camera and do some things. So you basically gonna have to start all over. So put my teeth back in there counterclockwise, 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 counterclockwise. Take my yellow piece, which is sometimes white or clear. Take this and put it back on there, and it basically locks the agitator in place. And there's only one way that it'll fit on there, because if you try to put it on there that way, it won't go. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Then I take my extension with my 7/16. Most of them are gonna be 7/16. Don't quote me on this, but I believe some of them are 5/8, 5/16. I don't know where I got that from, but I'm pretty for sure. All right, and we want to take that. And as I said to you before, we took this compartment, this thing, upside down where the teeth are, as you can see, and we hold on to the base, and we just so slightly put it over there. We don't want to, and you can actually look down the top barrel part of this to make sure it's lined up correctly. If you got a long enough extension, and sometimes you just put your hand in there, turn it upside down. Alright, now that we have that figured out. Alright. So now I'm going to take my extension and put it back on there. And remember, I'm trying to do this all while holding a camera. It's not a camera, I'm actually doing this with my cell phone. So I'm going to hold this with one hand, but apply pressure. Apply a little bit of pressure so that my inside and the inside of there, my dog things stay in place. So I don't have to keep turning this upside down. And I just want to feel out where it goes. And it's going to be kind of tricky. Oh, see. Alright, so we got it. We got it in place. So you just basically want to fill it out and feels where it goes. Alright. So what you'll notice is you'll start seeing the change. Remember when we had the machine going and it was basically loose and turning, and it wasn't, the bottom piece, this bottom piece right here is attached to the transmission, which has a rod that comes up the machine, and it's got teeth on the end, and the bottom piece, the teeth actually are fitted to this bottom piece. So this piece is actually the piece that turns. The top part of the piece is actually governed by the dog. So if we turn this, our whole bottom thing should turn. See how we, and before it wasn't doing it. And that's the way it should be in your washing machine. So every time the bottom piece turns from the transmission, the motor, the transmission, it should turn it. It should turn it. So it's actually grabbing the clothes and spinning it. Alright, so we want to take this whole piece. Let's make sure we got the top. And we can take these, throw them in the trash. They're no good. Alright, set this back there. Let's open up our lid. And problem, because now I suggested that you can take it out. You can take it out with the clothes in it, but you don't want to take it out. So an error on my behalf. But listen, the video is to help people, not criticize what I'm doing. It's to help. All right, so we want to grab this piece by the bottom, and we want to still be careful setting this down in there because it can pop up. So we want to kind of hold on to it and make sure that this sits down on the teeth the way it's supposed to. So it'll slide right in there if the teeth match up with the inside of that. All right, now we can take this stuff back and drop it in. Those are my dog's towels. Now we want to look for our extension on our 7/16. Open the lid back up, and we want to righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You basically want to tighten the same screw back up. And what I recommend is, just to get it started, is just using your hand, turning it in place first because you don't want to strip that screw out. So just turn it in place first with your hand just to get it tight, and make sure that it's going in there the correct way. And you'll know if it's going in there the correct way or not because it'll start not turning when it should be turning on a half. You've only turned to the half. Now we want to start tightening. Oh, going the wrong way. Hold on. Alright, sorry about that. We just want to tighten, and we want to get this. We want to get this tight. Some people recommend not that tight, but if you think about it, if you don't tighten this like real snug and tight, then those clothes, those jeans are slowly wearing out your dogs because it's slowly wearing out your dogs because it's not able to grip the correct way because this is, you know, super loose. So you want to make sure that you tighten this screw down there. That way it's sitting on there flush on the machine, and every time that transmission is turning, it's actually given an opportunity to be able to turn the correct revolutions per turn. So we want to make sure it's nice and snug. I would recommend, after it's tight, maybe about another turn and a half. All right, so we got that nice and tight. Oh, all right. Same plastic piece with the washer. We want to make sure we put this back down in there because that stopped water from getting down in there. And the same way I took it out is the same way that I'm going to put it back in, which can be a little complicated, but basically just like that. You can push it back down and up, push it back down in there. I'm going to put our fabric softener component thing back on there. Alright, so now we back on there, snap in place, and now we just want to cut the machine on. And what should happen is when the machine is turning, the bottom base of the machine is turning, I should not be able to hold this. Alright, so I'm going to turn the machine on. Now look at that. Look at the spins per revolution. Now I should, well, actually, what you see me holding is the fabric softener, but I literally cannot hold the base of that machine because those teeth are grabbing. And actually, that's the way it should look. So what I'm gonna do is when this video is over, I'm gonna tighten this up some more. Basically close the machine. Now I've been able to see what the agitator is doing without the lid switch. I can pull that out. You don't want to do that. I don't recommend that. Stick this back in here, a little spark, so don't do it. Everything y'all see me doing in videos y'all can't do. like with electricity, because I know what I'm doing. I don't recommend plugging it back up and plugging the lid switch back in. So basically what we're going to do we just want to wipe this dust and stuff. That's not a very good job. But you can use a Brillo pad on this. It's not going to hurt it. Just as long as you don't, you don't got He-Man strength. I wouldn't recommend doing this with the machine on, but I do it because I'm simply used to it. Now we hear the timer switching out, so it should go into a drain position. So now we see our machine is draining. Alright, so now that I've got that right down, I'm just going to drop the control panel back down. I want to make sure that I put my teeth in there slow, because you don't want to break those teeth off. So you want to make sure that, to the side and make sure that you're sliding them in there the right way. So once I got it down, I want to push back on the control panel. I want to locate my screw upside down. Alright. Put it back up. And I want to slowly screw it down in there. And I want that snug as well. And I'm going to go to this side. And see how that one's not going in there because the screw is not actually positioned. That's why you have to make sure the machine is pushed to the back. And you see that? Now at first it was just like that. I don't know if you can see. That's where the screw actually goes in, that little hole right there. So we always want to make sure that the machine is to the back. Okay. Kind of hard trying to do this with camera in your hand. Alright, so I'm gonna have to. Alright, so basically I just held it back and tightened it up. Alright. So that's the end of this video with the appliance guide. Got any questions, comments, things that I might have not touched bases on? Please comment, like, subscribe. Again, we don't care about the backdrop. That has nothing to do with the knowledge that I'm passing on. We don't care about the camera and the video as long as I'm touching on the key points. Basically, this is to help other people out. If you like what I'm doing, my YouTube channel is called The Appliance God. It's probably not up there right now, but like, subscribe, comment. You got questions, videos you guys would like me to do, anything, refrigerators, washing machines, dryers, gas or electric, newer refrigerators, please comment in the comment section, subscribe, and like the video. And I am the Appliance God, and I'm gone.